All right, welcome back. Let's see, it's episode 32, and it looks a little different. First of all, I'm Adam.
And I'm Steve.
There we go. As if you didn't know already, episode 32, for those of you just joining us. Yeah, so it looks a little different because I think we got about a foot, if not more, of snow.
I
So
think
we
it's at
couldn't,
least a foot.
yeah, we couldn't be in the same room today, so we thought we'd knock this one out in separate areas and see how it goes. We'll see what kind of magic the editor can do this time.
Right?
But yeah, so
I think the snow can only be outdone by the fact that I think it's like 10 below zero at the
oh
moment.
my gosh, I know. And I think I was out plowing for, I don't know, hour and a half this morning or something and shoveled a couple times the day before. But
Yeah.
you got a fancy new rig, so it probably took you no time at all.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I
Right?
kind of like the fact that it's been snowing for 24 hours.
I feel like even if I had the tools, I don't know if I'd like this. Negative 10 with
Really?
a foot of snow.
Yeah.
Although maybe I need to reassess where I live. That might be
Yeah.
a different.
Well, there is that.
Right. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you got a new rig. It allows you to plow a little bit faster there, and
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, it kind of tees us up for the topic today.
yeah, I suppose. Good call. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you
It-
hit him with it?
Yeah. Well, it seems like in the last 6, maybe 12 months that you and I have had several requests for people wanting to hire us, which is a great thing, but they want to hire us based on time, on
Yeah.
on hours.
Yeah.
And
I've never understood that. Yep.
right. And being in the relationship business, it's kind of tough to say, well, here's how many hours it's going to take to do what you're going to do I might have said this to you before, that it's kind of like getting married and saying, okay, we're going to get married, but we got 60 hours a week
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do this, to do
All
this
we can
marriage
do.
thing.
Yeah. It's all we can do. We're focused on the hours.
Yeah,
That's all you
exactly.
get to work on it. Makes no sense.
Right. When it's really about, when it comes to the relationship side of the world and communication, it's really on the result. And I think about, as stupid as this may be, this leap from talking about snow is that, back in the day when when I'm starting out life, I had a snow shovel,
Mhm.
and I would shovel and shovel and shovel. And at the end of the day, I'd get the driveway clear and I was done. And then,
Yeah.
life moves on and I got a little bit more opportunity to invest in some better tools. And, I get a snow blower
Yep.
and invest in the snow blower, and in the end it's the same result. The driveway is still clear, but it takes a little less time.
Yep.
And then a few months ago I take the plunge and get this little four-wheeler with a plow on the front, and again, same deal. It's the same result. Driveway is still clear.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But the amount of time involved is probably a little bit different. And
Yeah.
so I think that's where we want to head today, right?
Yeah. I mean, that is a great point. That was a great segue, because for me, when I say I never understood hiring for the time, it's like, well, first off, you're hiring somebody for their like skills and expertise, right? They either have the education or the experience that made them a specialist in what they do, right? So you're essentially hiring and paying for them to be able to accomplish a task because they have that specific skill set. And
Right.
nowhere in there does it talk about the time needed. If anything, it's more of a kudos to, I'll just use us for an example, like a kudos to us if we can get the job done faster because we're much better at it. And that's why we're specialists in that realm, right? You wouldn't want to hire somebody that's going to take twice as long to do something. So why are we measuring on hours, right? You're measuring on results. And I, even before we kind of dive into that a little bit, one of the things, I think I've mentioned to you before, in a previous role I had with a previous company, I had like a saying at my desk, and it said, and I can barely remember it now, but something along the lines of, not to judge, employees or people or work by what you start, but by the results. Like, don't base success on what you start, but it's off the results. Because if you're basing on what you start, you could hire somebody and they could just spin their wheels for hours and hours, all those hours you want to bill for and track. And, somehow that's a magical metric that you think keeps tabs on somebody, or, proves somebody's success for some reason, but they could just spin their wheels and never get anything done. Why would you want to pay for that? Right.
Well, They're trying really hard.
Yeah, a participation trophy. And then, but you know what I mean? So it's like if you can hire somebody that knocks out a project even sooner, well, kudos for them. And also that it frees them up to work on another project and another project. So when people want to, again, to your point, hire us and say, well, how many hours are you going to devote to this project? How many hours are you going to, can you guarantee us on this? Or, if we hire you for a 12-month contract or a 6-month, how many hours are going to go to this versus this versus this? And sometimes in some ways, I just want to say, whatever it takes, it's about the result. It's about getting the job done.
Yeah,
It takes me 2 hours or 30 hours,
right. Yeah, I think about our friends in the law business and our friends in the accounting business that, certainly in the accounting business, a lot of that is still done by time. You're paying, the accounting firm or the accounting people by the hours when, like you just said, I mean, they're basically compensated the more time they spend when, whether it's an audit or a return or, an evaluation, a company evaluation, something like that. It's really about just get the result that I want. The thing with lawyers is that, in my experience and in my life, the times where I've had to get that kind of help, I always know that I've got a good case when they say they'll take it, contingent, that they'll say, look, we'll just take a percentage of what we're going to get, because they believe. They believe that they can drive that result. You know what I mean?
End goal. Yeah.
Yeah. In other cases, it's like, nope, here's the hourly rate and blah, blah, blah. And so having that focus on result is really key.
Yeah. What one thing I was, it made me think about too is it's one of the reasons why, I think early on in the business, we found out that it was more beneficial for clients to hire us on a retainer basis, right? It was much cleaner, much easier for all parties involved. But also then it's like, okay, well, if we can get projects done sooner, then you're getting more out of us for that bang for your buck. And if it takes us a longer time, well, then you're not out an hourly rate paying us longer, then it becomes our problem. So when you pay on a retainer rate versus tracking hours and going hourly, well, there's no downside for you to hire by retainer versus hours, I mean, I'm sure there are, but it just, as a matter of fact, those are like the two biggest drivers. So yeah, it's a very bizarre thing when people say, yeah, we want to hire you at an hourly rate, or we want to track hours and, how many hours you can devote to this and that. It doesn't really make sense.
Well, and when we want to break it down between employer and employee, both sides have advantages and disadvantages. If you're the employer and you're focused on results, in some cases, the employee might have the opportunity through luck or their own efforts and skills to get the job done faster than what you had estimated, which means that, they might have some extra free time to do some things that maybe aren't job related because they got the result that you wanted done, but at least you got the result. And so, in that case, benefit employee, they got the job done. On the flip side, if you're the employee and the job and the job takes longer, you can't just say, in our opinion, okay, well, I've put in my 8 hours today or my 40 hours this week, and so that's all that I'm going to try, or that's all I'm going to work. No, if it takes you 10 hours or 12 hours today or 60 hours this week, you committed to the result. So you have to work until you get that result. And if you're the employer, if they get that result a little bit early, good for them.
Yeah. And this kind of ties back to another podcast, a little off topic, but it ties back to another podcast we had that talked about those mutual understandings and agreements of like, okay, make sure both parties know, the target tasks, right? Like if you're at a annual review or something like that, or a new hire, and a mutual understanding of, okay, these are the results we expect, or these are the, responsibilities of the job and the performance that we expect. Is that line up with what you're expecting? Okay, we're on the same page. Okay, we can move forward. Then there shouldn't be an issue with hours versus results type deal.
Right.
As a business owner or leader, Did you have something before
Go ahead and ask the question.
I was going to say, how, if you're a business owner or business leader listening to this right now, and you're like, well, yeah, no, I mean, I historically, and, as a matter of factly, only bill off hourly rates and want people to track hours. And if you're an outside consultant, that you have to be, held to these hours and whatever.
Yeah.
I guess for my question to them watching and intrinsically would be why do you do that? What's the goal of that? What's the reasoning? But to you, Steve, I guess my question would be like, how can we make this informational, educational, the things we do to make it operational, of having them see that whether it's an internal employee or an external vendor, a consultant hire, anything like that, how you can get a kind of a better bang for your buck or more results operating off that way versus constantly trying to track people's hours, which in my opinion, maybe it's my generation or whatnot, but that's kind of like what we've talked about before, a little bit of a dinosaur move.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so being candid, even just some people hearing this to hear the term dinosaur move, that's gonna tweak them. That's gonna trip a trigger. It's gonna be like, wait a minute, you young bucks,
Yeah.
this is the way you've always done it.
I like
Bottom
that
line,
was plural right there, by the way, young bucks.
yeah, well, we're both advocating a
Yep.
mindset here, and even though we've got our our stated 20-year age difference, this core value that we're talking about, and for some people, it's a very hardcore core value, where it's like they've run their whole business, their career, their lives based on butts and seats and making sure that people are putting in their time. And so first and foremost, in response to your question, I think when you're where we're at mindset wise and focused on results, I think just from experience, you have to be very, very sensitive and understanding that has worked for people for a long time.
Yeah.
And it takes, in some cases, an enormous leap of faith, letting go of some core values in addition to the faith, to even consider trying to just focus on results. Yeah. Now, the flip side is also true. And there's a guy, Gary Vaynerchuk, I think is his last name, Gary V, and he's very hardcore, results only, blah, 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 blah. And he doesn't hesitate to call people dinosaurs and worse when they consider that. But setting clear expectations, I think you've alluded to this already, but you have to have trust when you're blending I think we call it old school and new school, but time-oriented versus results-oriented. You've got to have enormous trust in each other just to attempt to work out an operational method, a mode of operation to work forward. So I think we got to throw in trust into this conversation big time to figure out what's going to work for both sides of this puzzle.
True. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
I was also thinking what I was going to say a moment ago is I was up with a client last week, and they tune into this a lot. So Gary and everybody will know them. I'm talking about them because I just said their name, I guess. But they started out this meeting, and we were talking about, because of a podcast, actually. I didn't tell you this, but he played our podcast to start this meeting last week.
Oh, sure.
And it was the one about old school, new school, and butts and seats and blah, 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 blah. And so he is a stated old schooler.
Yeah.
He put that on the table. And so then he did it. He had somebody, Steph, pull up the video in the meeting. And then he asked them right out of the gate, which I thought was awesome. Where am I? Where do you guys think I am?
That's good. Yeah.
And across the board, they pretty much said, Gary, you're definitely old school. But one of them said, we see you as old school transitioning, moving towards the new school. And so I thought, moving forward, he did a great job. I mean, that was a very vulnerable move on his part. He asked them for feedback. He said where he was, but he also got, I hope, some good feedback for him, saying that people recognize that he's moving in the direction of focusing on results. Now, they're in some parts of his department is very, very customer oriented, and the customer is on site. So can't do that remote.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that still is like music to my ears, because I think when we first launched this podcast, and as we kind of wrap this up here, when we launched this podcast, it was always supposed to be like kind of a for lack of a better term, like an added value, an educational and informational kind of hub for any of our clients. It wasn't meant to be some massive, like, attention drawer or, thousands and thousands of people to tune in. It was, so more employees of businesses that we work with or more leaders can tune in and constantly get more info, more education, learn more. And so for it to be used in a setting like that, it's really cool. I'm glad to hear that,
Yeah, it was awesome. And and appreciate him and a bunch of other people. And I think we're going to get one more podcast in before the end of the year, I think. So we'll do the official year-end wrap, but it's been great. And it's awesome to get the feedback from people about how they're using these.
Yeah. You want to hit them with just a closing argument, Your Honor? No, closing one-liner, and we can wrap up episode 32 and wish everybody a happy holidays.
Yeah, for sure. The two-part closer is one soft close, and that is be very understanding, no matter which side of the equation that you're on, whether it's really focused on results or let's stick with time, be very understanding of how you got to where you're at and understand the other side. But then the hardcore close is no matter which side you're on, it's not just about trying hard and working hard and so on and so forth. You gotta deliver. You absolutely have to set clear expectations and make sure that everybody sitting at the table is responsible for getting their results. So that's hardcore close for this conversation.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Steve, everybody watching, hopefully this new format wasn't too jarring for you, but also we obviously from us to you guys too, we hope you have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in episode 33. Hopefully we'll get that out before the new year, and looking forward to 2023 too.
Thanks for setting up the technology, man.
Of course. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.